Hey, thanks for checking out this week's video. So this week I've got something a bit different again. One of my New Year's resolutions was to improve my skills, basically. Just to get better at realism, because I feel that would translate even when I'm not doing realism. So I've decided to go back to basics, and I thought I'd maybe share the studies and my sort of approach and that kind of thing in case it helps anybody else out. So I decided to break it down and focus in different areas. I find recently when I'm drawing eyes that they're just not coming across as well as I would hoped. They're a bit too cartoony and I feel like I'm losing where I'm supposed to put my highlights and things like that. So I thought this was the perfect place to start. So you see at the beginning of the video, I'm flipping through this book, and it's a really great book by an artist who is really good. I find their work to be really inspirational, just the way that they use their values and things like cross-hatching. They use a lot of different media, not just pencils, but like ink and things, and I feel like they have a good understanding of how to use those tools. And I think it's good just to learn from someone whose work you admire, especially if they have a good grasp on various media and things like that. So although their work is amazing, the book itself is quite basic. It does cover so many things and it is extremely informative, but it doesn't go really in depth. So if you are looking to get a book, just bear that in mind. I do a quick flip through, and I think even on Amazon itself you can do, was it that take a closer look where you can skim through a few pages for free before you buy it. But yeah, definitely check them out. I'll put a link in the description box below. So I started off by doing a study of the planes of the eye. Now, I don't know if you've ever looked into just the planes of the face or the planes of the body in general, but think of it almost like a 3D model. You know how you get like those sharp corners and things that aren't fully smooth? Think really bad graphics and computer games and things like that. And it really helps you get an idea of where the light would hit and where it wouldn't hit, and what shadows would be hard shadows or soft shadows. And I just think taking the time to study planes, or at least having a really close look at them and seeing how they apply to real life, really helps. I mean, you can do like muscle studies, but I always found personally that I could do like a study of the muscles of the face, but then it just wouldn't really mean much to me once I put the skin on top. Do you know what I mean? Like I felt like I didn't learn much from it. Not like when I've studied planes, I feel like I take a lot more from that. Although don't get me wrong, studying muscles and how they work, in particular like with emotions and things, is very important, and that's something that I'm also working on in my spare time. But yeah, I do feel this is really helpful, and in fact I'll be putting together a Pinterest board with all the images that I've been using for these studies, and just generally anything that I find is helpful for this sort of thing. That'll be in the description box as well, so if you're thinking of doing any of these kinds of studies, or if you're just curious to know more, then check that out as well, and I hope that that's helpful. I'll be honest, the very first study of the planes I got bored of really quick. I don't know why, I just wasn't in the mood for it. You know, sometimes when you start drawing you're not feeling it, so I just hopped straight onto the eye fairly quickly. But I felt like I spent enough time on that study for information to sink in, because you have to bear in mind that when you are studying, a lot of drawing and learning to draw is actually learning to see things. It sounds kind of strange, but it's learning to see where the highlights are, or where those really strong harsh shadows are, and proportions and things like that. So even just taking the time looking closely at each area of something you are learning. So bear that in mind. And I tried to do a variety of different eyes from different angles. The one from below I found really difficult. I'm not super happy with how that turned out, but I do feel like I learned something from it. If you want to take your studies to the next level, what you can do is do a study from a reference, just like I'm doing, and then remove that reference and cover your first study, and then do it all again from memory. Now that's really hard, right? What you took away from those first studies will show in that second study. And then you can even go back again and re-study the same one and then remove it as many times as you want. You can go back and forth and do this until you feel like you've learned as much as you possibly can. To be honest, I can't do that because I just find it far too dull. But I have known other artists to do this, so if that's something for you, then do give it a try. Coming up to the last couple of eyes that I'm doing here, I thought I'd do some that were a bit more closed, because I find them a lot harder when they're looking down, when you can still see part of the eye, but it's I don't know, it's just really hard to see, and eyelashes for me are the most difficult things. So that's what I was kind of trying to focus on. I feel like I got a better understanding, but I'm still not there yet, so I'll probably be doing more of these when I can. So my idea was that once I finished the whole page, I would just do a couple of portraits, nothing super fancy. I think I spent maybe 45 minutes on each of these. I just did the two side by side, and they didn't have to be super accurate because that stresses me out. I'll be honest, I really want to improve my realism, but I don't want to beat myself up if I make mistakes, because then I find it so intimidating that I don't do art. It's really annoying, but that's me, and it's something I have to deal with. So I always tell myself it doesn't have to look like the reference photo, that's fine. This isn't a commission. If it were, I'd probably be using like a grid, or I may even just trace the lines completely so it's super accurate, at least while I'm learning. But these studies eventually will help me get that accuracy, but for now I try not to stress out too much. And for this first one in particular, I don't know how I managed it, but the eyes are far too close together. It really bugged me. I did notice it fairly early on, but it would have meant erasing quite a bit and starting again, and I was like, you know what, I'll just live with it. It's fine, I'll keep going. This is my sketchbook after all. I wasn't actually intending to share this originally, but I thought maybe it could help out some other people, and transparency I think is really important because we all make mistakes. We all have to start somewhere, and to improve to get to where we want to be, and I think the more that artists hide that, the more difficult it becomes for newer artists to sort of deal with this. So here are my mistakes, guys. We all make them, and hopefully I'll learn from it next time. I think originally the spacing between her eyes and everything was perfectly fine, and then I just took that tear duct, maybe both the tear ducts I took too far into like the bridge of the nose, so it really closed the gap. I think that was my mistake. There are other features of the face that I'm really struggling with. The nose, the lips, and ears. I do struggle with all of those areas. Even eyebrows, actually, I really struggle with. I just struggle with the whole face. Like, I feel like it's okay, but I really want to push everything to the next level. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to be doing this again for those other areas, and I'm happy to share it with you again. If these are interesting at all, do let me know in the comments below if this is a series you would like to see. I'm intending to maybe record it as a little series, a mini series. I think what would be really fun is that because I'm doing this at the beginning of the year, is to revisit it next year this time. So again, go back to basics and go over the eyes and the nose, the mouth and ears and what have you, and see how much of an improvement there is, fingers crossed. One thing that I certainly need to improve on is that I prefer to draw people who are looking to the left. Like if it's a 3/4, I'd rather they would be looking to the left, like the paper's left. I think it's because I'm right-handed, so like drawing features coming out to the right I find more awkward for my wrist to deal with, which is silly. I should be able to draw both ways, so that's something I need to work on as well. I realised after I started this that I had actually flipped it. I don't know if it was like subconsciously trying to make it even easier for myself, but the original reference photo for this, she is facing the right, so it would have been better to do that, but that's a conscious effort I'll have to make in the future. Also, the materials that I'm using will be in the description box as well, but just a quick note on them. I'm using mechanical pencils, one of which, I always forget this, I'm sure one of them is a HB and the other one's a B. But the HB, which is the chunkier one, the Faber-Castell, it's a 0.7mm. And then the other one, which is a Staedtler, is a 0.9mm, so it's thicker as well, which makes it harder to get finer details in. And I tried to draw much smaller and I found it impossible just because my pencils are too thick. So I'm either going to get a couple of smaller mechanical pencils, or I may just swap over to wooden pencils, but the constant sharpening of those drives me mad. But I might just I'm sure I've got a set that I got in a Scrawler box a few months back, so maybe revisit those and see if I can get tighter details. Also, you'll see that I'm completely neglecting the hair. I'm just adding scribbles here and there. I really did not care about the hair in these studies. Mostly because that is something I struggle with probably the most when it comes to portraits. So I will also be doing like this kind of format but with hair. I may have to go further in depth with the hair though, like, because there's so many different types. You've got your straight, you've got your curly, you've got afros and all these different type of things that I have no clue how to draw. That's another one for the studies, but I hope this was useful, or at the very least interesting to a degree. If you like this video, be sure to give me a like and do hit that subscribe button to see more. Until next time, bye!